The neighbor's little boy tugged my sleeve like he'd seen a monster. "Your wife had a man in the house last night?" he whispered. "He told me not to tell, but I'm telling you." My whole body went cold. I work night shifts as an EMT. I leave at 10 p.m. My wife stays home alone. Quiet neighborhood, familiar faces, nothing ever out of place. But a 5-year-old had just said the one sentence no married man ever wants to hear. He pointed at my house. "He went inside when you drove away." I didn't ask anything else. Couldn't. The world felt tilted, wrong, blurry around the edges. That night, instead of leaving for my shift, I pretended to go. I drove around the block, parked behind the old shed, and slipped inside with the lights off. The wood creaked under my weight. My heart creaked louder. At 10:17 p.m., I heard the front door unlock. Not her footsteps. Heavier. Confident. A man's voice drifted through the night air, low, familiar, like someone who had been here before. Someone comfortable. I held my breath and watched through the narrow crack in the warped boards. My wife met him at the door. Smiling. Whispering. Her hands slid around his back in a way she hadn't touched me in months. He kissed her like he'd done it 100 times. My fingertips dug into the wood until splinters broke skin. Then she whispered something that made my entire world tilt off its axis. "Don't worry, he leaves at 10. We're safe." And that was the moment I understood. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. This was routine. And I was about to find out just how deep the routine went. They walked deeper into the house like it belonged to them. The living room lights dim, the curtains already half drawn. She'd prepared the place. Prepared him. He took off his shoes at the door. Not nervously. Naturally. Like he'd done it many times before. My wife led him to the couch. My couch. The one we argued about for weeks before buying. She curled against him, laughing softly, her fingers tracing the collar of his jacket like it was muscle memory. I watched every second. Every movement. Every lie I had ever believed. She poured him a drink, whiskey from the bottle I kept for special nights. And when he wrapped his arm around her, she leaned in and whispered something I barely caught through the crack in the boards. "Just one more night. Tomorrow it's done." He nodded. "I'll be ready." Ready for what? I didn't blink. Didn't flinch. I memorized every detail. His face. His posture. His voice. The way he moved around my home with quiet ownership. Then she did something that made my stomach twist. She reached into the drawer by the TV and pulled out a small brown envelope. He opened it. Inside was a folded document, crisp, new, signed. His grin widened as he read it. "Once he's gone," she whispered, "everything transfers to me, and then to us. Life insurance, house title, my pension, everything." My pulse slowed to a cold, steady rhythm. This wasn't just betrayal. This was a blueprint. A plan she'd built piece by piece on the nights I worked saving strangers' lives. He kissed her again. Longer. Deeper. And then, she said the words that changed everything. "Tomorrow night when he leaves, you come in through the back." Every muscle in my body locked. They weren't cheating. They were scheduling my disappearance. I stayed in that shed until my legs went numb, until the cold crawled through my clothes and into my bones. But nothing froze me like their plans, spoken in whispers meant for no one else. He left through the back door just after 11. My wife locked it behind him, turned off the lights, and walked upstairs with the same calm rhythm she used every night I went to work. Except tonight I hadn't gone anywhere. I waited 20 minutes before slipping out of the shed. My hands were shaking, but my mind wasn't. My mind was clearer than it had ever been. She wasn't just planning a new life. She was planning the end of mine. Inside the house, everything looked normal. Same smell. Same framed photos. Same kitchen she pretended to cook in for us. But now I knew what lived behind it. In the living room, the envelope she'd given him still sat in the drawer. I opened it carefully. It wasn't just insurance papers. It was a timeline. Dates. Signatures. A schedule. Her handwriting on the margins. Night shift equals perfect window. Back door stays unlocked after 10. No blood. My throat tightened. She had mapped out the night I was supposed to die. And the man in the jacket? He wasn't random. He wasn't new. He was someone I recognized from the neighborhood, a quiet guy who jogged past our house every morning like he belonged to the street, not to me. Now he belonged to her. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. She was moving. I shut the drawer silently and stood in the dark, looking at the life I had lived like a blind man. I didn't rage. I didn't cry. I didn't confront her. Because tomorrow night, she expected me to leave for work at 10. And I would. But not the way she thought. If they planned to end my life tomorrow, I would be the one watching. And I would be ready. The next morning she acted like nothing was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek, poured my coffee and asked, "Long night?" I stared at the woman who had scheduled my death like it was a dentist appointment. She didn't notice. Monsters rarely see the people they're standing on. She left for work at 8:01 a.m. At 8:06, I was already dismantling the house from the inside out. First stop, the home security panel. I pulled the access logs. He'd been entering the house on average 3 nights a week for over 2 months. Always after 10 p.m. Always through the back door. Always after I went to work. Second stop, her laptop. She'd forgotten to close her email. There were drafts, unsent, unaddressed, rehearsed messages for after I was gone. I can't believe he's really gone. It happened so fast. He must have surprised a burglar. She had her alibi written before the crime even happened. I forwarded everything to a secure drive. Next, I visited the garage. That man's footprints were still faintly visible, dusty impressions on the concrete near the back door. His gloves were hidden behind the paint buckets. The crowbar tucked behind the toolkit was wiped clean, except for one tiny smear on the handle. I took photos of everything. Proof. Every step they'd taken, every mistake they'd made. At noon, I met with someone who owed me a favor. A retired homicide detective who now worked private consulting. I showed him everything. He didn't interrupt once. When I finished, he exhaled sharply and said only this. "Logan, if you go to work tomorrow night, you won't come home." I nodded. "I know." He leaned forward. "So what's your plan?" I told him. He went silent. Then he said, "If you do this right, you walk away clean. If you do it wrong, they walk away." I didn't hesitate. They won't walk away. Because tomorrow night wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. The detective helped me prepare everything. Not with violence. Not with traps. With documentation. Because if tomorrow night went the way they planned, only one person would end up in handcuffs. Me. And I wasn't giving them that kind of ending. By late afternoon, every file, every message, every timestamp, every stolen moment between them was backed up in 3 places. A secure drive. My lawyer's server. And a timed email scheduled for midnight. If I didn't stop it, the evidence would go out automatically. I returned home before she did. Set the house exactly as she expected. Dinner on the counter, lights low, uniform laid out for my night shift. She arrived at 6:12 p.m. humming. She kissed me. I didn't move. She didn't even notice. At 9:40 p.m. she began her ritual, fake concern, warm hugs, long kisses meant to pull my guard down. All rehearsed. All lies. At 9:58 p.m. she walked me to the door. "Be safe tonight," she whispered. I studied her face. The softness. The care. The rehearsed pain she planned to wear tomorrow. "I'll be careful," I said. I stepped outside. Closed the door. Walked down the driveway until my car disappeared from her view. Then I turned around. Because tonight I wasn't going to work. Tonight I was going to survive. I moved around the side of the house, staying low, staying quiet, and slipped into the shed, the same place I learned the truth. At 10:06 p.m. the back door unlocked. She let him in instantly. Their voices drifted out, excited, rushed. "Is he gone?" "Yes." "He left 2 minutes ago." "Are you ready?" She exhaled. "We finish it tonight." I gripped the edge of the shed door. Not in fear. In focus. Because in exactly 1 minute, he would enter the house thinking I was gone forever. But tonight the story wasn't his. It wasn't hers. It was mine. They moved through the house with purpose. Not lovers sneaking around. Conspirators. He whispered, "We do it exactly how we planned. No hesitation." She nodded. "He comes home at 7 in the morning. We make it look like a break-in. You hide in the hallway. I'll leave the back door unlocked. A break-in. A staged struggle. A dead husband. All for insurance money." The man who jogged the neighborhood, waved to kids, nodded politely at me, was now walking through my kitchen holding gloves and a screwdriver wrapped in a towel. He wasn't nervous. He had done this before. My heart beat slowly, steadily, like it was syncing with something darker than fear, clarity. From the shed I called the detective. "It's happening," I whispered. "Stay hidden. Don't interrupt. Let me get my guy there." "No," I said quietly. "They need to be caught doing exactly what they planned." I ended the call, slipped out the back of the shed, and moved to the side window where I had a perfect view into the hall. He positioned himself behind the entryway. She dimmed the lights. Every detail matched her notes. Then she pulled out her phone and began typing a text, a message she planned to send after he killed me. Babe, I'm scared. I heard noises. Please come home. Fake panic. Fake innocence. Fake love. Everything about her was fiction. At 10:32 p.m., he rehearsed the attack, standing exactly where he would strike, gripping the screwdriver like a blade. She ran her hands through her hair, messing it up. I need to look like I struggled. He grabbed her wrist too tightly. We should practice. She didn't flinch. She liked it. And that was the moment my breath left me. Because she had never looked at me the way she looked at him. This wasn't desperation. This wasn't fear. This was devotion to the life they wanted after mine ended. But they had overlooked one detail. I wasn't gone. And the detective wasn't alone. His entire response team was 2 minutes away. When they stepped through that back door, it wouldn't be to save me. It would be to catch them in the act. Blue lights don't make a sound until they're close. And when they finally flashed at the end of the street, he didn't notice. She didn't either. They were too deep into their performance. He wiped surfaces with his sleeve. She arranged a broken vase near the doorway. Together, they rehearsed the struggle they planned to sell to detectives the next morning. She even practiced crying. Fake sobs. Fake shaking hands. Fake terror. Everything she once showed me in love, now reduced to theater for a murder. The back door creaked. Not from him. Not from her. From the shadow stepping inside behind them. A single voice cut through the dark. Don't move. 2 officers entered first. Then the detective. Then another pair. Guns drawn. Flashlights blinding. Voices sharp. Hands where we can see them. He spun around, stunned, dropping the towel-wrapped screwdriver onto the floor. She froze. Completely. The actress finally out of script. What is this? She stammered. The detective didn't answer her. He turned to the man. Carson Holt, you are under investigation for conspiracy to commit homicide, attempted insurance fraud, and unlawful entry. The man's eyes widened. He turned to her. You said he'd be gone. And then she screamed the words that showed her loyalty never belonged to him either. You said it would look like a robbery. You said it was safe. Every officer in the room went still. The confession came out of her without force. Without interrogation. Without pressure. Pure panic. Pure guilt. They cuffed him immediately. She tried to run. But they grabbed her wrists before she made it 2 steps. Let me go. You don't understand. The detective cut her off. No. You don't understand. We've been watching you both all night. Her face drained. She looked around the room like it was suddenly unfamiliar. As they walked her past the window, her eyes found me in the dark outside. For the first time in months, she finally realized I had never been the one who was blind. They sat her in the back of the cruiser, hands cuffed, mascara streaked, breathing hard like she'd just woken up inside her own nightmare. The detective stepped beside me. You did the right thing, he said quietly. But I wasn't thinking about justice. I was thinking about all the nights I walked out the door trusting a woman who waited for the sound of my car leaving, so she could let danger walk in. She saw me standing in the driveway as they closed the door on her. Her face broke. Logan, please. I didn't mean. The door shut before she could finish. Carson was already in another vehicle, screaming threats, excuses, lies, everything cowards say when a plan falls apart. But she went silent. Guilt doesn't scream. It sinks. I walked inside the house when the police cleared it. It felt unfamiliar, like someone else had been living here. Someone who had memorized the floor plan for a reason I wasn't meant to survive. I sat on the couch, the same one where she had curled up with him, and exhaled for the first time in hours. It wasn't relief. It was release. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message preview lit the screen. Policy beneficiary confirmation successful. The timestamp? 1 hour before she opened the door for him. I forwarded it to the detective. More proof. More truth. More of the world she built collapsing on top of her. By morning they were both charged. Conspiracy. Attempted murder. Insurance fraud. The prosecutor told me, this case is open and shut. They planned it too cleanly. Too cleanly, except for one thing. They never planned for me to stay. As the sun rose, I packed a single suitcase and locked the door behind me. Not running, just choosing a life no longer haunted by the echo of betrayal. I didn't lose a wife. I escaped a predator. And I didn't survive by luck. I survived because I listened to a 5-year-old boy who saw the truth before I did.